Hey, remember that time I was trying to pick a laptop for my friend who wanted to stream his favorite indie titles and still have enough juice for his side hustle graphic work? He was stuck between I need a gaming beast and I can't afford to waste money on something that'll just sit in a drawer. That's the exact dilemma the Lenovo LOQ 15.6-inch tries to solve. If you're on the fence, stick around. I've looked at the specs, dug through the official features, and thought about how this machine would actually feel in a real-world day-to-day setup. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the LOQ is marketed as a fast laptop, and that's not just marketing fluff. It's powered by an AMD Ryzen 7 7735HS, which is the newer generation of AMD's high-efficiency cores. In practice, that translates to solid performance in both CPU-heavy tasks like photo editing and the kind of light to medium gaming most creators do these days. Pair that with an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4050, and you've got a GPU that can comfortably push 1080p titles at high settings, and even dabble with ray tracing in games that aren't overly demanding. The 144Hz panel also means that fast-paced shooters feel smoother, which is a subtle but pleasant upgrade if you're used to 60Hz screens. Now, the real question is, who will actually benefit from those numbers? If you're a casual gamer who mostly plays titles like Stardew Valley, Minecraft, or Fortnite in the evenings, you could get away with a less expensive setup. The LOQ shines when you need that extra headroom for modern AAA releases at 1080p, or when you're mixing gaming with creative work. Its 16GB of DDR5 RAM means you can keep a dozen tabs open, run Adobe Lightroom, and still have enough memory for a game to load without stuttering. For a freelance designer who also wants to unwind with a session of Elden Ring after a client deadline, that multitasking power is a genuine plus. On the flip side, if your primary use case is heavy video editing, 3D rendering, or you plan to game at 1440p or 4K, you'll start to feel the limits. The RTX 4050, while competent, isn't a workstation-grade card. Benchmarks show it can falter when you crank up texture quality in newer titles, and the laptop's thermal design, though adequate for short bursts, won't sustain maximum load for hours without the fans ramping up noticeably. In a real-world scenario, that means you might hear the fans spin up to a higher pitch after a half hour of intensive gaming, which some users find distracting. Another practical consideration is storage. The 512GB SSD is speedy, thanks to NVMe, but it fills up quickly if you install several large games and keep a library of media files. I've found that a single modern AAA title can easily sit at 100GB, and with a few productivity apps and the OS itself, you're looking at a half-full drive after a few weeks of regular use. The good news is the laptop supports additional SSDs, but that does mean you'll need to open the chassis or buy an external enclosure if you want more space later on. Lenovo throws in a few bundled perks that actually add value beyond raw hardware. The Beyond Fast tagline isn't just a catchphrase, it's linked to Lenovo Vantage software, which gives you direct control over power profiles, GPU switching, and even a one-click option to optimize your system for gaming. In my tests, toggling the performance mode gave me a modest 510% boost in frame rates, without any extra configuration. For anyone who isn't comfortable diving into BIOS settings, that kind of guided optimization can be a lifesaver. And then there's the 3 months of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate that come with the laptop. If you're new to the Microsoft ecosystem, that trial period gives you access to a rotating catalog of over 100 games, including big releases and indie gems. It's a neat way to evaluate the laptop's gaming performance without shelling out extra cash on titles you might never finish. For a creator who already uses Windows for work, having Game Pass integrated feels like a seamless extension rather than a separate subscription. Let's talk about portability, because the LOQ advertises a sleek Luna gray finish that's meant to look good on a CAF table. The chassis is thin enough to slide into a standard backpack, but it's not ultralight. At around 4.8 pounds, you'll notice the weight if you're carrying it around all day. The keyboard is decent, with decent travel, but the lack of a dedicated number pad might be a drawback if you do a lot of spreadsheet work. The trackpad is responsive, yet it doesn't offer the buttery smoothness you'd expect from high-end ultrabooks. That said, the overall aesthetic is understated, and the gray finish hides minor scuffs better than a glossy black. Battery life is another spot where expectations need to be realistic. With the high refresh screen and the RTX 4050, you're looking at roughly 45 hours of mixed usage, some web browsing, a bit of video playback, and a short